Okay guys, just want to do a quick one about the recent George Floyd trial. Just want to quickly talk about how this has been portrayed in certain areas of the media.
Had a lot of people making a lot of noises before this verdict saying, this is in the States I'm talking about, that if this doesn't come back as guilty of murder, we're going to tear the place up. I mean, that was the level of anger. So in that respect, I suppose that the crowd got what they wanted. Would that be fair?
Well, I wouldn't go that far. I think that if this had been a not guilty verdict, given that we all watched what happened and the history and the recent and long history of racial violence by the police against black people, there would rightly have been a major reaction. All this has done is said this the thing that should have happened.
So pretty much all that needs to be said, really. I mean, we all saw the video. We all watched a man crush another man's windpipe with his knee for 9 minutes while he died, suffocated to death while he pleaded for his mother. We've all seen it, so I don't really think there's any area for discussion, any difference of opinion, but I don't know, let's see what TalkSport's slant is.
Apparently there were parties in the States, I'm told, celebrating. I think in as tasteful way as one can. I mean, you're right. I mean, at the end of this, a man is still dead, and that is clearly not a good look for anybody in terms of the legalities or the standing of the police. But you mentioned the word race there, of course, and this wasn't a racist crime. This was a crime of a policeman doing something very, very bad indeed. Why did you mention the word race there when it's not part of the charge sheet?
Okay, here it is. So I guess Talk Radio are going to try and make out like there's no racism in America.
I don't think you'll find a similar video of a white person being choked with a knee on someone's neck for 9 minutes.
Well, I don't think you'll find many videos of anybody that happening to be fair. Come on. I mean, that's not something but you can find lots of videos. You can, if you want to find a video of a white kid crawling on his knees saying, please don't shoot me in a hotel corridor, I can show you that. If you want a picture of an autistic kid begging for his life or then being knocked out and they say, oh, he's probably gone to sleep and he's actually dying.
No one's saying, I'm not saying the police kill lots of people. The police don't just kill black people. But the police clearly have a problem if you look at the disproportionate deaths. And also, if you look at the way that in a public spectacle, a black man in America, given the history and present, a police officer felt it was perfectly fine to kneel on his neck for 9 minutes while he's being videoed, that you cannot take race out of that equation.
Why can you not take race out of that question?
Unless you're trying to be ignorant. I mean, if you are trying to be ignorant, ignore the history and present, then you can.
No, but why do you, how could you possibly know that there's race in that whole image, that disturbing and sickening image of George Floyd on the ground and him with how can you from that extrapolate a racist component?
Because we understand how the world works, and we understand what America is, and we understand the history of it and the present of it. I mean,
you can't know that. You can't possibly. You'd have to at least consider. You might say, "I think."
So the question is, then, let me turn this around. So unless he's standing there saying "you N-word" or has a hood over his head, then that's the only way you could prove racism.
Well, in that case, that's an argument to suggest that no police officer should ever have any kind of violent confrontation with a black man.
So I've got to be honest, I'm not particularly happy with either of these guys on this segment, really. The interviewer seems to be doing a very good job of leading this guy down a dark alley, and he seems to be sort of digging himself further into a hole. The interviewer, he wants to talk about whether the police officer that killed George Floyd was racially motivated or not, whether he killed him because he was black. And that's not important. It's got nothing to do with the racial problems in America. And this guy on the interview here doesn't want to talk about the real issues of racism in America. He's just following him down this dark alley, no one knows whether this police officer was racially motivated or not. That's not the problem. The problem is why constantly black Americans getting themselves into altercations with the police. Reason being is overwhelmingly the black population in America are in dire poverty, so they're drawing themselves into crime where the only game in town is dealing drugs. Any of you out there that's seen the HBO show The Wire would know full well what I'm talking about here. Large scale of the black population in America live in inner city ghettos where there's no job opportunities, nothing going for them apart from the drug game. So that's why they're constantly in altercations with the police. So whether this police officer was racist or not is not not important. The important issue is you need to solve why whole swathes of the black population in America are in dire poverty, because the American government see them as surplus to requirements. They're not needed, and they're still enslaved. Whether they're, back then they were picking cotton fields, or what they're doing now is still the same thing. They're enslaved in inner city ghettos, they're enslaved in prisons. Overwhelmingly black population in the prisons in the American system is, just look at the percentages, it doesn't add up. They're still enslaved, and this is what's important, and this is what this guy on this show, I don't know why he's not talking about that, but he wants to go down digging himself further into trying to talk about whether this guy was racially motivated or not. It's got nothing to do with it. Of course there's issues with racist cops in America, of course there is, but that's not the bigger picture. We need to get these guys out of poverty and out of the drug game. And anyone that's watched any of my previous video on whether we should legalise drugs or not knows my opinions on the drug laws. You need a massive change in drug laws, because you're permanently going to have this cycle of black Americans dealing drugs, getting into crime, getting into altercations with police, and then eventually getting killed. That's how you solve the problem.